Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Hopkins. It is 7 Oily Days Essentials, and you are joining us tonight on a really good night. It is all about hormones. Who's excited about that topic? So I have some folks live, and I have some recorded testimonies because it is going to be amazing to hear some of the stories that we're learning about naturally. Now, I have been doing a lot of studying up. I've been a Young Living essential oils user since 2006, so almost 14 years in September. And recently, I've pulled off some books off of my shelf. These are two of my favorites that I love when we're talking about hormones, some just good general information. And of course, I'm always looking at other resources by great folks who have lots of experience, Gary Young being one of them. I like to read anything that Gary Young has created. And so there's a lot of information I'm going to be sharing tonight at the end to remind you as a recap of what all of the folks that are going to be sharing tonight are going to have to say, because they all have their own personal stories and their experiences, and you're going to learn a lot from them. But I just want to go over a few things in the beginning, a big picture, because this is not just for women. We actually have a man that's going to be sharing with us tonight. And he is, he is really not just any man. He is a chemist. So he has a very wonderful understanding of the human body and chemistry, but he also lives with females. And so he has an understanding of hormone in a different perspective as a dad. So, and a husband. So he's going to share, we're going to have Landis Phelps share tonight live about her experiences and her age range and what the oils that have worked best, the products that have worked best for her. And then we're going to have Sarah Johnson share about her experience with products that her kids have used, specifically working with from toddlers to teens, everybody, and why essential oils are so important. And then, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Somebody is sharing their screen, so I don't know how you did that. There we go, thanks. So we're going to be hearing then from Jen Brown, who's in California, couldn't join us here tonight, but she's going to give us an amazing testimony of how she has been healing her thyroid and doing amazing things working with her thyroid. So it's going to be great tonight. I'm glad everybody joined us. But first, I want to go over some very basic things about hormones. We all have them, and we want to make sure that they're doing their jobs the very best. As we go through the night, you're going to hear about different products, different regimens that people have used. Remember that essential oils are not hormones. They're aromatic volatile liquids. They come from plants. They're very, the chemical makeup that they have is very complex, much like us, because we were all created by a creator with intelligent design. And so what I want you to remember is that as we're sharing these stories, everyone's a little different. Your background's a little different. Your DNA, your chemistry of your own body, the things you've gone through in your life are different. So just learn from everyone else who's going to be sharing tonight. And there's overall a balance of other things that we need to remember is getting petrochemicals out of our life. One of the biggest problems with hormone imbalance or dysfunction is that we have an overabundance of petrochemicals in our life. So that goes from plastics, that goes from chemicals that we are putting in our home. So things that are petrochemicals, air fresheners that we're smelling, things that we're putting in our laundry detergent, the soaps that we use, check those things out because a lot of those are endocrine disruptors. And an endocrine system is really what we want to do is support that for our overall health. So I'm going to share with you at the very end some just basic things that we all need to be doing to supporting our hormones. But I want to get to the stories first because those are what are going to really encourage you tonight. So we're going to go ahead and start because I see her first. We're going to get started with Sarah Johnson, who is part of my education support system with Young Living, and for a lot of you, she is too. She's also, I'd known her before Young Living. She's the sister of my husband, which makes her my sister-in-law. And so she is very knowledgeable about essential oils and how they work with our body. Sarah and I co-authored a book called Nutrition 101. And so, Sarah, I'm going to just hand it off to you now so you can explain your knowledge of hormones and tell us your wonderful story.
All right. Thanks so much for asking me to share. So when I first started in Young Living, I didn't know much about hormones. I didn't know really anything about them. I didn't know how to support my endocrine system. I didn't really know what all the parts of my endocrine system were. And it actually took me some time, even after I got in Young Living. My focus was so much on my kids' immune system and so much then next for my own digestive system. I really wasn't focused on hormones much until Progestins Plus came around and I was using it for myself. But my second order in July 2006, when I signed up, my second order, I actually had gotten a Golden Touch 1 kit. And when I got that kit, I was getting it for the Thieves and the Melrose and the RC and the Raven and the Digis. But when I looked in the box, when I got the box, I found the Endoflex and Juvaflex. And I was like, I don't even know what this is. Why would this be in this box? So I put it on a shelf and there it sat for 5 years. Y'all, I went 5 years in Young Living before I ever used my Endoflex or Juvaflex. No one was teaching. We were learning about, by this point, towards the end of that, Progestins Plus came around. But anyway, somewhere around in there. But I just wasn't focused on it until so my oldest, here's my children's ages. 22, I have 2 daughters, 22 and 19, and then 2 sons, almost 15 and 12. And so when our oldest daughter, Julia, she turned about 12 and a half, she began to get really moody and really down, really pensive and just kind of melancholy. And so this child, Julia, naturally, the way God made her to be, she was happy. Like she was like rainbows and unicorns and wanted to be happy all the time and wanted everybody to be happy and everybody to be loving and at peace and everything. And she was always had such, a joyful spirit constantly. And she never got crossways with us, me and Darren. She never would argue. She was just really obedient. And so 12 and a half hit. And so all these things started happening. And she really, truly was dealing with a lot of sadness and depression, really is what she was dealing with. And I didn't understand. I didn't know what was going on. She just changed. Something changed. And it's so easy for us to think about, in preteens and teens going through, puberty, everybody's like, well, that's just how it is. No, it's not. We've got to understand what's happening here. So anyway, she would start arguing with me and that we weren't used to button heads. So anyway, it would kind of go up and down for a year. And at 13 and a half, there was one day she and I were button heads. And I remember leaving her room and going to my room. And I said, okay, God, what's going on? Am I dealing with the spirit of rebellion? And am I dealing with this? What's happening? And he goes, no, balance her hormones. And I was like, oh my word, my baby has hormones. It just hadn't sunk in. She hadn't started menstruating yet. I was a late bloomer. She was a late bloomer. And so my mind just wasn't there yet. But so what did I do? I opened up my book and I saw in there Endoflex. And I read through in the blend section in the EODR all about Endoflex. And it was just saying that it was to support all the endocrine glands. And so I got the Nutrition 101, opened it up to the picture of the endocrine system where all the glands were. I showed Julia and I said, listen, you're going to be using this 3 times a day. Oops, both of them. Here we go. You're going to be using this, a few drops in the Ningxia Red. And I said, look at the pictures. And my Nutrition 101 is right over there. But I said, look at where all your glands are: pituitary and pineal, thyroid, thymus, then you work your way down. So I had her put a couple of drops on, and this is what she was doing, getting it to those as close as she could to those glands on the thymus, over the pancreas, over the liver, back on the adrenals, on the lower abdomen, and the reflex points on the feet are on the inside of the ankles for girls, outside the ankles for boys. And so I taught her how to do this. And of course she ended up making a Macarena dance about it with it, which is funny. But she did this 3 times a day. And in 2 days, I had Julia back. She was back. She was happy and she was joyful and she had hope and she was easy to get along with. And I was like, what in the world? So fast forward. Okay. So she's doing the Endoflex. And okay, that's fine. So 3 years later, here comes Elise. Now, Elise is our second oldest. And this was Elise when she was 2 years old. Like from the time she was 2 years old, like her terrible twos, like she would get angry and she was scrappy. Y'all, I mean, all throughout her childhood, like I would find her like beating up Julia because Julia called her a baby or something. And so she's hitting, like, I mean, she wasn't afraid to fight a boy. I mean, this was this child. So she's passionate and she would passionately fight you or passionately love you. Either way, but I mean, she was scrappy and she'd get angry and she'd get frustrated and she'd get mad and she wasn't afraid to say no to her mom and dad. And we were like, what is happening? This is before the oils. So now fast forward, she turned about 13 and a half, and she was constantly stuck in the fight. She was stuck in the fight. She was angry all the time. And she would get so frustrated. She couldn't even say what her words were. She couldn't even, like, you couldn't rationalize with her. You couldn't reason with her. She would just get so angry and she'd want to be very physical. And this was this child, totally a different way. And I was beside myself and I was praying. I was like, Lord, what do I even do? And the Lord told me again, he said, Sarah, balance her hormones. And I'm like, my baby, she has hormones too. Oh my word. Okay. Endoflex. So I taught her how to use her Endoflex. Of course, they're putting it in their Ningxia each day, and then at least 2 times, if not 3 times a day with the Endoflex. And guess what happened? In 2 days from her doing this regimen with Endoflex, all of a sudden, she's the most reasonable person. And she's still passionate, but she's calm and at ease and not rigid and tense, but calm and at ease. And you can rationalize. And if she's got something she's frustrated over, it's easier for her to find the words so that Darren and I can help her find the solution to the problem. But and now she's the best version of herself, of who God made her to be. Very passionate, very loving. And she loves people, and she is, oh my goodness, she is the best defender of the faith. She will defend you. She wants justice. Like, this is who she is. And she got to be the best version of herself. And I was like, oh my word, she needed these oils since she was 2. Like, I was like, what? And so, so then, I started sharing with some people about the littles, but here came our son, Joshua. Joshua, smiling Josh, always smiled, never cried. Like God, he was God's answer he was that blessing that was like, okay, Sarah, you get to rest now. After Elise, you get to take it a little more easy. And so this was our son, never cried. He was just fine. But when he was 10 years old, and his siblings could pick on him and he'd laugh about it, y'all. I mean, this is just Josh, and you could tell him what to do and he'd just do it. He was obedient, everything. So when he was 10 years old, I went in the kitchen, he was doing his math homework, and he was so frustrated that he was crying. Like, he never cried. And I'm like, who is this child? Why is he crying? It was so frustrating. He said, Mom, it's just so hard. It's so hard. I can't do it. I'm like, whoa. And he's frustrated and he's angry. He's like, oh. And so I said, and in that moment, I was like, Lord, what do I do? This is a boy. Like, boys are grown up. I've raised 2 girls and, and they're all teenagers now. And what do I do with a boy? Like, what's going on? I'm not a boy. And so the Lord told me, he said, Sarah, balance his hormones. And I'm like, oh, boys are people too. They have hormones too. Oh my word. Okay. And so I grabbed the Endoflex, in the Ningxia, and I showed him how to put it on just like his sisters. And you know what he did? And then I had him breathe it in. And I said, and while you're breathing it in, I said, just relax, step away from the math, breathe it in nice and deep. And thank the Lord that God is not giving you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And he did. And he breathed it in. I gave him about 10 minutes. And then I said, okay, now go back to the math. And, and it was still difficult, but he could actually now problem solve and go step by step. And he finished it without getting overwhelmed, without getting frustrated. And I love to share these stories because everyone has experienced this. Everyone has. And I want you to remember this. Anytime your hormones are imbalanced, like out of balance, then your brain cannot properly process emotions. Okay. So think about the times in your life that you've had these hormone surges and swings, a baby, a toddler, a child having growth spurts, puberty, lots of hormone surges, women, men, daily, we actually have hormone surges up and down. Monthly, we all have a monthly thing. Guys even have it too. And then there's menopause and andropause for the men. And so always think about that when you're in those seasons of hormone surges. You also support your liver with the Juvaflex. That's why it's in there too. Mom's Golden Touch and, hormone surges for everybody. Juvaflex and Endoflex are companion products, but Endoflex for sure. And I've shared this and I've been teaching this for years now. And the last thing I want to tell you is a friend of mine that has 18, well, she's actually almost 20 grandchildren, ages 13 and under. Two of her daughters are pregnant. But anyway, so she took this picture a little while back, 18 grandkids. And at the time they were 12 and under, they would all get together every few months for a big family of get together. And usually there's fighting over a toy or meltdowns by the 2 and 3-year-olds. I mean, can you imagine 18, 12 and unders, right? All together in grandma's house. And so there would be meltdowns and fighting over a toy. Well, she heard my class about hormones. And so the next time they got together, she lined them all up. The babies were in the baby carrier with their little booties, their little socks off with their bare feet. And she took her Endoflex and from the oldest to the youngest, and she had the oldest ones stand there with their wrists out. And she just went drip, 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 drip. A drop of Endoflex on everybody. And she said they had the most amazing time. Everyone was chilled out and relaxed and just having a good time. And of course, all of her kids are in Young Living now. So all her grandkids are oily, but it really works. And we've got to remember to support even the little's endocrine system. And in the very least, I would do a drop, inside of the ankles for girls, outside of the ankles for boys, maybe a little drop on the little tummy, just every once in a while. Or if you feel that they're, maybe they need that daily if they're having these, a lot of frustration or mood swings, temper tantrums, those type of things. And seriously, for Elise, even to this day, when she does her Endoflex, and then of course, when she started menstruating, she added the Progestins Plus and Dragon Time. That's her third favorite. But when she is out of balance and hasn't stayed on her routine of doing those oils daily, she gets all tensed up and angry and agitated and stuff. And then she'll and if we recognize it, which she's now in college, but I mean, this is while she was home, we would recognize it. And I'd say, Elise, go do your oils and go pray for a bit and come back in the room. She would come back in the room so chilled out. We were like, man, if there's somebody else here, they'd think she was high or something. And she had come to her room and I don't even know. But I mean, she's like, oh, and then she goes and apologizes to everybody. Hey guys, that was intense. I'm so sorry. I was a little moody and you didn't deserve that. I'm so sorry. Isn't that cool? See, God has given us the best tools to help our kids and help us to come together as a family and communicate well with one another and actually be happy and balanced. So anyway.
Well, and it's funny because you say that, because her cousin, my daughter, when she was, I think 8 or 9, they took a trip together, and Elise had a whole issue, and they were with grandma and grandpa, and grandma called and said, no, this child, what is going on with her? And Sarah got on the phone with her and said, Elise, have you taken your Endoflex? And Elise hadn't.
Oh, yes.
And that was a great, my daughter, who was 8 or 9 at the time, saw the transformation. And so we started using it with her. We'd been using it with her off and on, but not real consistently, but she knows now, and she's 13 now. So I will say to her, go put your Endoflex on.
Yep. That's all it takes.
Endoflex on, and she knows what that means. And I go put mine on too. And then we come back together. We have a little time out and come back together. But having little ones using Endoflex, you guys already know the placebo effect with children and essential oils. It's amazing to see what happens. But Sarah mentioned that emotions are tied to hormones. That was something I was going to talk about at the very end, because I'm glad she mentioned it, because did you know that your hypothalamus is in that central brain? That's the command center for your hormones. So your hormones are being secreted by different glands in your body to do whatever whatever your body needs, right? And to regulate things. You're not having to think about it. Your body's just fearfully and wonderfully made, and they're doing the job. But the hypothalamus is in that central brain, that limbic system, and that's the system. Your sense of smell comes through the olfactory bulb, right behind. Can't really point to it, right in there, and it comes in, and the sense of smell goes directly into that limbic system, and that's where emotions are stored. So it's so amazing how our hormones can be drastically affected with those oils and those smells. And it's amazing. And I know Sarah, she teaches this so well. But Endoflex is really, if people need to start one place, would you say Endoflex is where they need to start?
100%. I have shared this over and over again, and moms will say, you just described my child, and they'll go and do it and report back to me that it's a new child. It's their child, like that they know that God created them to be. Lisa had asked a question, how long did the girls continue on Endoflex? It's something in our household that we just had them start doing morning and night. They do a drop or two. I mean, it's not going to take you past balance, and everybody's endocrine system needs support. I mean, we all have stressful things that happen during the day, and the surge of cortisol. Laura's probably going to teach on that some. But what that does to just throw you off, also the toxins we're exposed to, those endocrine disruptors that we're exposed to every single day, even if we have this great controlled environment in our home, we usually walk outside and go somewhere. And so that's a continued support that needs to happen. But you may find that your balance is maybe, a few drops morning and night, and you're good to go. Some people need to add some of the other products that Laura's going to be talking about.
For sure. Well, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you sharing. And I will tell you that another great, I'm going to share all the resources at the end of things that you can start, because we have a lot of resources at our disposal to be able to learn about great times to take things. One book is the Ultimate Balance book. And one thing we were talking about when we support our thyroid and putting Endoflex, and we did this during our Endoflex challenge last month, and we would just apply it right here over that spot for the thyroid. So what I would do is, that's a good place to start, and do it from 9 to 11 p.m. because that's the time when that system of the body is resetting. So, but that Ultimate Balance book goes into a lot more detail. Again, there's a lot of resources out there. We're going to have a lot of information coming at you tonight, but I want you to hear the stories, and then we're going to kind of break it down afterwards so you can understand what's going on. CE Gertis is going to be next. He's on the call. He's not at a place where he can have live reception. So I'm going to share my screen. He pre-recorded for us. And so I'm going to share this. and he's going to tell you what he does for male hormones. There we go.
Hey everybody, this is C.E. Gertis. I'm coming to you tonight to talk about male hormones. Male hormones is not necessarily a popular subject, particularly with men, but we're going to talk about it. And so everybody knows that testosterone is the male sex hormone. Testosterone is responsible for all the particular sex characteristics of men, including body hair, facial hair, low voice, large muscles, all that kind of stuff. Why do you think it is that men in their teens and 20s think they're invincible? Well, it's because we have ample amounts of testosterone in our bodies. But as we age, testosterone production tends to fall off, starting at about age 30. So then testosterone, by the time a man gets in his 40s, 40% of men are considered androgen deficient, which means testosterone levels below the lower limit for what's considered normal, and the lower limit is 300 nanograms per liter in your blood. So what happens to a man when his testosterone levels fall below normal? Well, here are a few of the symptoms: diminished energy and motivation, depressed mood, decreased libido, the dreaded ED, okay, increased body fat, especially around the belly, an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, and an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Now, personally, I was never examined for, nor was I ever diagnosed with low T. I'm certain that because of my diet, my work stress, and the lack of physical activity that was going on in my life at that time, I'm pretty sure that I had low T in my mid-40s. So what is a man to do? What can be done to improve those testosterone levels? And if we can keep the doctor out of the equation, that would be great. So here's a few things. First of all, eat healthy fats. Testosterone is derived from cholesterol. I don't know if you knew that or not, but intake of cholesterol will make sure that you've got enough starting material for your body to work with. Second thing is reduce the amount of simple sugars that you ingest. Things like French fries and sugary drinks, they spike your blood sugar, and that increases insulin. When insulin is elevated, testosterone levels tend to decline, okay? So third thing is decrease or at least manage stress, okay? Stress increases cortisol, which makes it harder for testosterone to bind to their receptors. So cortisol for men, I don't know, it's something to think about. The fourth thing is a high intensity interval training. Lift weights, push a car, do something, get off the couch, channel your inner caveman, okay? Guys, just do something that's physical, some kind of physical activity. Number 5 is supplement with zinc, magnesium, and vitamin D. Zinc has the effect of directing the starting materials away from the estrogen pathway into the testosterone production pathway. So I'm going to show you a few supplements here. Super B is the first one, and it's got a great source of magnesium and zinc. Here is ImmuPro. It's got a great source of zinc as well. And then Master Formula. Master Formula is great for these minerals as well. The sixth thing is lose weight. Adipose tissue acts like estrogen in your body, okay? So try to lose some weight. Avoid xenoestrogens. Now, these compounds are released from plastic bottles and containers. So it's real easy to take a plastic container that's got food in it, put it in the microwave, warm it up. It's real quick and easy, right? But those plasticizers have the effect of acting like estrogen in your body. So if you need to warm something up, or eating something or drinking something warm, use paper, glass, or ceramic, okay? Now I'm going to talk about some oils that specifically support the male endocrine system. And so one of them is Idaho Blue Spruce. The other one is Shutron. There is Goldenrod and Mister. Okay, so all these are good for the male endocrine system. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is not necessarily something that supports endocrine system or hormones, but I take prostate health. Okay, prostate health is going to support your prostate. It's in the name. So it's got saw palmetto and pumpkin and all the great compounds in it from those plants that are going to support your prostate health. So hopefully this gives you a great high-level overview of how to improve male hormones to stop the madness. Stop the madness. You guys have a great day.
Okay, so we are going to back out of that one and keep. Thank you, CE. I appreciate you sharing about that. And I'm really glad that you mentioned exercise. And guys are not the only ones who need to be doing that. The adipose tissue that he was talking about, that's the fat that accumulates around our midsection. And it's usually due, of course, diet, but also added stress and lifestyle. So if you're not being active. And one of the real problems with adipose tissue, and some of you have heard my husband talk about this and his challenge with it, is that it can actually, it's very estrogen-like. So when you have guys that start to develop, have estrogen-like qualities in their body, the body is really trying to do its best job there, and we need to help it out. But women, we have to make sure that we're not estrogen dominant. Even though, yes, we do need estrogen, we need testosterone as well, and there's a balance there. And Landis is going to talk about that here in a second. But I just want to encourage you that when you exercise, it is really, really, really important that women get some kind of activity going. You don't want to have, of course, that midsection, that extra fat, because of the strain that it not only puts on your hormones, but also on your heart. And did you know that women, we always talk about osteoporosis and how important it is for us to be strong as we get older. But did you know that just doing some light weights, it doesn't have to be a lot, but any kind of weight and resistance that you're getting is actually going to be really, really beneficial for your hormones and growth hormone in your body. And at the end, I'm going to talk about growth hormone and all its many benefits as an immune booster, but also as something that helps us to kind of reverse some of the effects we've taken on ourselves in aging. So really, really, it's important. I'm glad he mentioned that because we want to make sure that we're getting what we need from an exercise standpoint. You might say, I don't have time to do it. Well, let me tell you something. You have to make time. You have to put it on your calendar. You have to, because your hormones depend on it. Your health depends on it. And let me tell you something, how I feel after I exercise. I am worn out usually in the middle of, because I'm pushing myself in an exercise and working. But at the end of it, I feel energized and refreshed. And it takes you a while to get back to that place, that means get that Super B, like CE was talking about, and get your Nixia Red, because it is amazing what it will do for your hormones. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to our next testimonial, and that is going to be Landis. I saw her just a minute ago here. Where are you, Landis?
I'm here.
You are here. Where are you?
Can you
Talk a little bit more. There you are. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, you can't.
No, I saw you earlier, but now you're black. So, ooh, and now we're having a hard time. We can't hear you at all. Are you still there? Oh, we must have lost her. Okay, well, while we're waiting on Landis, we're going to keep talking. I'm going to pull up the next video of the next person who was going to share her testimony. We'll just do it that way. And it's going to be Jen talking. Jen had an amazing testimony that I heard last month at when I was in California. Jen lives in Oakdale, California. She was telling me her story of getting back involved in essential oils and all of the years that she went and had, and so many issues. And so I'm going to go ahead and share now my screen so you can hear from Jen. And pardon the, we recorded this earlier today, and it was right after I worked out. There you go. See, I'm not just telling you to do it, I'm doing it too. So, okay. Thanks for joining me today, Jen. I just wanted to get your background a little bit. Would you tell everybody when you got started with Young Living and why?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way. So my story, I started in 2014. My best friend sold me a bottle of Thieves and a bottle of lemon, and I used those until they were gone. And then I went to buying my oils on Amazon because I didn't know what we had. So I used those and had a nice little chemical burn, and then thought, oh boy, this isn't good. So kind of backed off from that. And then in 2018, well, actually 2017, I was running about 90 miles an hour into a brick wall. By the time Christmas came, I was down to eating raw almonds, and warm water was the only thing I could keep down. So I was on a quest to find something to figure out what I needed to do, because I'd been to the hospital several times, doctor several times, they couldn't figure it out. I was so desperate. I had acid reflux so bad that they found a little tiny hiatal hernia, and I was going to have surgery on that, even though the doctor said, it's not that bad. And I said, well, you live with this, and let's see how you feel. And my doctor, they said, we're going to do one more test. And he called me and he said, hey, wait, I think we found the real problem. It's your gallbladder. And I said, oh, okay. So canceled the surgical consultation, had my gallbladder out 2 days later. And I came out of surgery and I was worse off. The constipation diarrhea circle just runs, And so I was looking for answers, and I happened upon a group that was talking about gallbladder support, and met Buddy and Terry Black. And Buddy said, hey, have you ever heard of Young Living? I said, yeah, I used to belong to that. He goes, I really encourage you to order these enzymes. And I was like, okay, at this point, when you're that sick, you're like, yeah, I'll try anything, right? And thank God I did. Excuse me, because it really did transform my life. I had struggled with, my thyroid had not worked for years. I'd been on thyroid medication for more than half my life, and it was really a tough struggle. The acid reflux medication, I was taking more and more of that medication and more symptoms, but no relief. And so I ordered the digestive enzymes. I had no energy. Like literally I would go to work and then I'd come home and I'd fall asleep within seconds of sitting down. So I ordered that. I ordered the enzymes, Super B's, and Life 9. And I started taking those, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to try it. Nothing else works. Why not? Why not try it? And so I did try it, and I'll never go a day without it now. Yeah, it's been very powerful for me. And then, of course, my family also, it's changed the trajectory of our family for certain. Yeah.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit, tell us what happened with from a hormonal standpoint, because we know that gallbladder impacts everything. Did you start to feel some regulation? What happened? And then what about your medications you were on for thyroid?
So 6 weeks after taking it, I was totally released from all of my medication. So my thyroid medication was gone. My acid reflux medication was gone. The depression medication was gone. I found freedom. I found total and complete freedom. And to be able to walk in that kind of freedom is the most amazing thing ever. So my thyroid now, what I use Thyromin, and then I also use Endoflex every day. And then I also use Progestins Plus. That helps to support as well. And then of course I use Life 9, because we know that if the gut works, if the gut is in good working order, our hormones are going to be balanced. They're going to work properly. So, and then of course the essential enzymes, I use those every day as well. So, and then if I'm out of essential enzymes, this is a quick hack. Some people may or may not know this. If you're out of essential enzymes, you can use Mighty Zymes. So you would take a couple extra of those. Those work, they work pretty well in a pinch. So those are my kids. And if I happen to be without them, I can snag my kids and it's good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your testimony and how you've been able to transform yourself. And we're very grateful for you sharing that with us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. The freedom is out there if we put in the work, for sure. For sure. Thank you again. Have a great day, guys.
All right, so that's another example of just a person who made small changes and had a big impact. And we keep hearing different things throughout, but look at what the gut health did. So we've talked about, different themes with different people. Exercise was big with CE, emotions, and looking at the root of emotions was big for Sarah. But for Jen, gut health. Your gut is your second brain. Have you heard that said before? So what was really important was that she was able to start with her essential enzymes, her enzymes, and that kind of created a balancing point for her body, because digestion was the gateway that was affecting her hormonally. So she saw a huge change, and unfortunately it didn't happen before she had her gallbladder removed, but by using the essential enzyme 4, she was able to bring that balance. And for those of you who are hearing these different phrases or the different names of supplements, you think of the name of the oil or the supplement, you look at the root words, you look at what it has in it. So something with endogize or endoflex, like we talked about, you've heard about tonight, is for the endocrine system. Thyromin would be for the thyroid. Now, one little hack you may not have never heard of, but I heard Gary Young talk about thyromin many years ago, and he said that if you want to use it for supporting your thyroid, of course you take it as it says on the label at night. If you want to use it for an adrenal support, you take it in the morning, and it actually does not make you sleepy. In fact, if you take thyromin at night and you don't go to bed right away, you might stay up a while because it can have that effect of what it's starting to trigger in your body. So make sure that if you're taking it for your thyroid, that you take it at night and you get ready for bed and be able to sleep. And then if you're taking it to support your adrenals, you take it in the morning. I like to pair it with Super B. It's a good one. Also, we're now going, if Landis is back on, she's there, yay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put Landis as the main video, and she's going to give us her testimony. Some of you have heard it already on the 7 Early Days Essentials page, but I would like just to turn it over to you and let you share.
Okay. I am sorry that I had all that mess up there. It was literally like everything was going, so I'm on my phone now. Okay, so the other thing that I want to point out here is just what Laura said, was that some people are using these products and some people are using these products. I want to encourage you to be able to tinker. That's my word, to tinker. It took me a while to come up with this system because I had to figure out my own body. I have been in the past very estrogen dominant. And so being very estrogen dominant, I needed to move that. So what I know about the body is that we have estrogen, we have testosterone, which we've mentioned, but we also have progesterone, okay? Now, for women, estrogen and progesterone are inversely proportional. What does that mean? That means that when your estrogen is high, your progesterone is low. And then as they start to shift throughout the month, you're going to have this happen, okay? So that had a lot to do with my system. So I heard Sarah teach on hormones. I'm one of those people. I'm a product of listening to her and being educated by my upline. And I heard her probably 5-6 years ago, okay? And I grabbed my Endoflex, absolutely Endoflex. And so we began to do the Macarena at my house. And that is really true. That works. It's powerful. Kids remember it, turn on a song, there you go. So I use 3 drops of Endoflex a day, at least, okay? So I use it on my thyroid. Remember Laura said that. So I went, oh, I hope mine's the same as what she says, and it was so good. So on my thyroid, but I also put a drop on each adrenal gland, okay? So I also utilize that raindrop technique. I'm making sure and putting that on clockwise so that I've got go in the right direction. So I use this every day, okay? Now this is for women, and we have a 28-day cycle with a menstrual period in there. So I am working on those numbers. I am a green, and so those numbers were important for me. So this I use every day, no matter what. I'm using Endoflex because it's going to help me in all 3 of those areas. It reads my body and says, oh, Landis needs a little bit more of this, and so it's going to aid me. All right, we get to day 14, okay? For me, day 14 is Progestins Plus. In fact, I'm almost out of my bottle here. So Progestins Plus, for me, I use 1 drop every day. That's it. I found out through tinkering, please don't be scared to tinker. I found out through tinkering that if I used 2 a day, I started earlier than I should in my menstrual cycle. If I did 1 every other day, I started too late. So for me, 1 drop of Progestins Plus, days 14 through 28 is perfect for me, okay? So I use that. Now, where are you putting that? I'm putting it right here. I'm simple. Yes, I learned the Macarena, and I do a semi-Macarena with my Endoflex, but I'm just putting that Progestins Plus right here, okay? Days 21 through 28, we are going to use Dragon Time. Now, what I forgot to say is day 14 is when we are at our very highest for estrogen. And I love God because I think God's got a hilarious sense of humor. And for women, estrogen is considered your happy chemical. It's your happy hormone, okay? Do you think it's a coincidence that God made us to be the happiest when we're ovulating? No, it's not. It's not a coincidence. So there's a reason for that. And Genesis 1:26 says, be fruitful and multiply. So he's not dumb. He's figured that out. So as we are at our very highest with estrogen, we're going to start heading towards our cycle. Remember? So we're doing this little balancing act here. As we come down to day 21, your estrogen is not as high as it once was. Your progesterone is raising up. What might that make you? Maybe a little bit crappy, a little bit irritable, a little bit, can you like chew somebody's head off in like 3 seconds? Yes, you know, that would be, that's never happened to me. So you use Dragon Time. Now, I laugh here because this is an old label, but it's because I own a lot of this and I'm getting through my stash. So I use an old label. I use my Dragon Time. I'm listening to Sarah. I'm going to put that on my lower abdomen. Okay. So on that day, I am opening my bottle. I'm literally raising up my shirt. I'm going bonk, bonk, bonk right there on my lower abdomen. And I'm rubbing those things in. I'm probably not as patient maybe then either. Perhaps. Okay. So I'm using these 21 through 28. Okay. Then I'm going to start my cycle. Okay. It's good. What does that start? It starts day 1, right? Day 1. Well, guess what I'm going to grab? I'm going to grab Clary Sage. Clary Sage is what works for me. Yes, there's Lady Scleral. Yes, there's scleresis. There's some other things that Laura's going to talk about. This one works for me. It's what I used to tinker with, and it's what worked. And so I'm not changing the system. Are there any of you, days 1 through 3, that might experience some slight discomfort? Maybe? Okay. The reason for that is because your estrogen has completely bottomed out. You remember, it's your happy hormone. Gone. It's out of there. That's why you started your cycle. Your progesterone was really high. Your estrogen was really low. You started your cycle. Okay. There's actually a chemical reaction that occurs, and there's something called prostaglandins, and we won't go into that right now. But when that happens, sometimes this will bother you. Okay. I'm going to use copious amounts of clary sage. Why? This helps support the production of estrogen in my endocrine system. So I'm going to use copious amounts. Where am I going to do it? Because I'm using copious amounts. I'm going to do it right here because I may be at work. I may be at school. I may be at any number of these places. So I'm using lots and lots of this on days 1 through 3. And guess what? I avoid this probably 85 to 90% of the time. I don't have any discomfort and I'm in great shape. So that is what I have learned to tinker with. I encourage you to tinker too. Good. I thought it was me that had disappeared again. As far as drops of dragon time, I am using probably 3. I'm probably going clunk, clunk, clunk right on my tummy, 3 different spots is what I do for that. And yes, I absolutely would do it for a teenager. But again, remember, the teenager's hormones are going to be in completely different balance than what, I'm 50. And yes, I still have a cycle. And yes, it is 28 days on the dot every time. Oh, there's Laura. Good.
Landis, I have a question. How many months of tinkering did it take you to figure that out?
I have, because I'm that girl. I have an area in my notes on my iPhone, and I wrote notes of the day that I started and what I used and how much I used. It took me a little under a year to get it exactly to my 28 days, but and that's how I figured out that for instance, the Progestins Plus, it was like, no, I started at day 24, if I took too many, or I would start at 32 if I took too little. So it took me a little while, but I encourage you. And I didn't share, that's where your green is way different, Kara just said, but that's where I have no issues with going along and saying my cycle cleaned up. It was much, it wasn't nearly as heavy. It was much shorter. And so my flow completely changed too. And I didn't mention that. So I went from 7 or 8 days of bleeding to 4 or 5 days of bleeding. And I went from about 3 really heavy days to 1 very moderate day. And the rest is very light. So don't be afraid to tinker.
Just looking to see if there are any other questions. Go ahead and keep commenting on the side as I wrap things up, and then we'll just come back to questions at the very end. Thank you, Landis, for sharing that. That was awesome. I had to run and get something real quick, and I don't know where it is because I bet my husband has it, but I just wanted to go over, just kind of to be concise. We could talk about hormones. I mean, we have just scratched the surface. And tonight we were committed to an hour. We were committed to just giving you guys kind of some ideas and getting the ball rolling. And many of you are dealing with some hormone imbalance and you don't know where to start. So what I would encourage you to do, if you're looking for something that's just a basic hormone balance book made simple, this is a good place to start. Dr. John Lee's book, and it's very simple. It talks you through some basics. It's not specific to any company, but I like the way it breaks it down into symptoms and gives you a starting place if you're looking for something to start. I also encourage you specifically for female issues. There are 2 books that I like. Dr. Purser and Dr. Leanne Dearda. She has done a really good job of explaining Progestins Plus and breaking down Taming the Dragon that Landis talked about. And of course, Dr. Purser helped Young Living with development of Progestins Plus. Now I'm going to tell you guys, some of you are going, this doesn't apply to me. Okay, you've talked about teenagers and kids, you talked about men, you talked about women that are menstruating. I need to know what happens after menopause. Well, who's talking about that tonight? So what I want you to know is the there's not one product here that's just for one cycle of life. In fact, I know a lot of women who love Progestins Plus in the menopause years, or perimenopause, or in menopause, because of what it does with that balancing. Just like Landis said, as your body is going through changes, they're going to have different levels. And so what the idea with the pituitary that affects the progesterone production in your body, and the pituitary, I said it again, it's right up there. It's right, actually very close to the hypothalamus, that control center. And the hypothalamus tells the pituitary, hello, you need to start producing some progesterone. And so the progesterone's job is to go in and create balance. Again, we want balance. Everybody's balance is going to be a little different from person to person, but we all need it. So when you are dealing, if you're someone who's looking at ideas for menopause, I cannot tell you enough about the wonderful things of Progestins Plus. Now, when Dr. Purser talks about menopause, he talks about hot flashes. And he says, as an endocrinologist, as someone who has lived with women most of his life, he created this because he saw a need. And what he saw was that the way that progesterone brought balance in the body, women were accepting hot flashes as a rite of passage. But what it is, it's a precursor to heart disease. And what's the number one killer of women in America? Heart disease, not cancer, not coronavirus. I'm sorry, I went there. No, it is heart disease, you guys. So we have to take care of our hearts. And Progestins Plus is one way that we can help with that balance, that progesterone support. Another thing is antioxidants with your Ningxia Red and your Cardiogize. It's one of my husband's favorite products. There's a lot of little things that you can do. If you're dealing with hot flashes, look at the source. It's a heating and cooling issue. It's not just hormones. Your hormones are saying, hello, we have a problem here. Listen to what your body's saying and don't just accept the norm, the traditional, okay? Sarah talked about cortisol levels. I think maybe Landis did too, or CE. Everybody talked about it tonight. We're tying these in together because cortisol is something that is a good thing. You have your fight or flight. You have that, and your adrenal gland's job is to get you up when you need to be and to also help you to come down and keep you balanced out. But unfortunately, so many of us are leading lives that we're not allowing ourselves to release stress, to release tension. And so our cortisol levels are super high. And if you look at cortisol, Cortistop from Young Living, it has something in there called Canadian fleabane, which you cannot get as a single oil. I have been reading some amazing things about Canadian fleabane. Where's the book that I had that I was reading today? That was, Gary Young wrote it. He was talking about, here it is. Whoops. It was a human growth hormone book that Gary talks about Canadian fleabane in this book and why he puts it into Cortistop. And I believe it's also in Thyromin and the importance of it. So it is amazing whenever you start looking into some of the roots of these things, some of your symptoms start working backwards into what's happening with your hormones. So maybe, you're dealing with some things you've been dealing with something from long term. Let's not just accept it as the norm. Like what Landis said, tinker with some things, identify what your biggest issue is, and then go forward. I think a lot of you, your number one step would be to start with EndoFlex. It's good for every member of the family. And it's a good place to start because we all have endocrine systems. Everyone has an endocrine system. So start using it, see what kind of benefits you get, start reading about it, look at all the oils in it, look at all the oils do in that, and then moving forward. What you want to do is just to create overall balance. And I brought up Gary's book, The Increase in Human Growth Hormone, because what it does is it actually, there's no reason, this is what researchers said in some studies that they did in this book, there's no reason why growth hormone should decrease. I thought that was kind of interesting. Why shouldn't it decrease with age? What they're saying is that the pituitary can maintain the ability to produce growth hormone into old age, but the levels decline because of lifestyle. The levels decline because of our choices. So I don't know, maybe that's why people in the Bible lived to 900 years old and people in the Middle Ages didn't live past their 40s, right? Some people, some places in the world don't live much into their 50s. My daughter just did a report about Ivory Coast in Africa this week, and she said the life expectancy was 53. So I would be like a senior citizen in their culture. So I'm looking at it going, what is our lifestyle doing? Why is that a decrease? Because what does growth hormone do? Naturally, your body's producing it. It burns fat, it builds muscle, it boosts your immunity. Anybody want some immunity right now? Anybody like to increase their immune systems? It lifts your mood and your energy. It strengthens your heart. Hello. Talked about that. Improves memory, regenerates your skin, improves sexual function, thickens your hair, benefits vision, extends life, and reverses aging. Your body has the ability to do that. So what we need to do is give it the best opportunity to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to avoid petrochemicals, the xenoestrogens, the plastics, the fake foods, the genetically modified things that we don't need in our body that are creating estrogen dominance in a lot of ways. We want to support all of the glands in our endocrine system, specifically your liver, because your liver is a filter and it's starting to dump some of the things out that's not needed. So take care of it. Doing a colon cleanse. I said it. Yes, your bowels. Take care of your bowels, cleaning your system out. Next month, we're going to talk all about cleansing, cleaning your system, making sure that your liver and those glands, those filters have their jobs and can do them well. And then looking at how you resupport with Ningxia wolfberry. It is one of the do you know that Ningxia wolfberry is one of the highest vitamin, mineral, and amino acid profiles of any food? It is. It is phenomenal. And it benefits growth hormone. You also want to look at your diet. Every now and then, look at the possibility of doing intermittent fasting. Look at things that support your lifestyle when it comes to exercise. How are you eating around times that you're exercising? Are you working out all throughout the day and then you have a big meal at the end of the day? Oh, don't do that. We want to make sure that you're supporting the energy levels that you need throughout the day, because otherwise, if you just have big meals, if you're going to create that adipose tissue that creates that, for better lack of a term, my husband calls it like a vest. He says it's like I'm wearing a vest and I can't take it off. And that vest, unfortunately, can get intertwined around your vital organs and can cause some serious, serious problems in addition to creating more estrogen-like effects in your body. So last thing, exercise, making sure you're moving, making sure you're getting great sleep and great water intake. Those are all the things that are for basics. Those are basics, right? Those are things that we should be doing anyways. But look at how you're doing across the board. Step back and take inventory. And then let's dive into some specifics of what hormones that you need to go back and look at. Okay? So any other questions?
Am I correct, Laura, in remembering that the desk reference has a middle section and a chapter on hormones too?
Yes, there's some great options in the Essential Pocket Reference. This book, do you guys have Gary's book, Integrative Medical Guide? It's a good one. Good. If you have opportunity, this one should be available this summer at convention at Life Science Publishing. I got a lot of good information. It's older. This is an older book. It was before Joseph was even born. So if you get a chance to read that one. Someone asked about this one, John Lee's Hormone Balance Made Simple. And again, he doesn't mention essential oils, but he walks you through some natural things just to kind of identify what's going on, the types of things that you may not get in a regular doctor visit. And then someone also asked about the Ultimate Balance book. This is a little bit another jump ahead. The thing I love about it is that it gives you time of day if you're really looking at getting rebalanced, it gives to time of day, and it talks about complementary organs and how you can work on things a little at a time. You'll start to see improvement. So again, that's advanced. If you have those books, use them, utilize them, but if you don't have them, start where you are. Start with your Endoflex. For guys, start with Idaho Blue Spruce or your Shutron. My husband loves Power Jize. It's ashwagandha root. And then if you're looking for something for with pregnenolone DHEA, if you're looking for brain support, fogginess, PD8020, that's pregnenolone. 80% DHEA, 20%. So that's again, a lot of information, giving you some place to start, and then going back and working through your books, your resources, being your own health detective, as we like to say, checking out what you need for you specifically. All right, I'm going to scroll through here, see if there are any other questions. Looking at all your testimonies. Okay, so the question was where to start for those who are having too much testosterone and infertility issues. Okay, so again, getting back to what will bring balance in with testosterone and estrogen. What was that? What did Landis talk about tonight? Progestin Plus. It's a good place to start. Clary Sage is helping me to not be sweaty at night anymore. That's awesome, Kara. Thank you for sharing that. Julie says she is balancing her thyroid with Progestin Plus, Endoflex, and Thyromin. Perfect. Okay, Pregnenolone and Regnenolone. How do you know if you need those? So that's something we can have a conversation off topic because that's very specific. I mean, off of our talk here. Again, it goes back to what do those specific products do? What do they support? And I would encourage you, I can read this to you guys here at the end. The hormone balance test that's in here is really beneficial because it takes you through different symptom groups, and then you can look at it and it gives you scoring. So we can tell you if you're progesterone deficient, estrogen deficient, you have estrogen excess, and then estrogen dominance, and then excess androgens, the male hormones, so testosterone, if you have a cortisol deficiency. So that's kind of a good place to start with that one. The Ultimate Balance book is best to be bought by Life Science Publishing, and the person who's asking me about that, don't buy it from Amazon because they'll probably charge you too much, but discoverlsp.com is a good place to get that. And then, all right, how do you know if we need to address thyroid or adrenals? Okay, again, that goes back to looking specifically at the tests. And understanding what these books say. So if you guys want to stay on, I can read through those. Do you want me to do that? Okay, I can just read those. So here's some symptoms. Again, this is only symptoms. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm just giving you a starting point of what to look for. So a progesterone deficiency, you might have some of these symptoms. PMS, insomnia, early miscarriage, painful and or lumpy breasts, unexplained weight gain, cyclical headaches, anxiety, and infertility. Group 2, estrogen deficient, vaginal dryness, night sweats, painful intercourse, memory problems, bladder infections, lethargic depression, and hot flashes. Okay. Group 3 would be excess estrogen. There's a difference between just excess and dominance. So if you have excess estrogen, again, what would we do for that? Progestin Plus, but you might have puffiness and bloating, cervical dysplasia, which means an abnormal pap smear, rapid weight gain, breast tenderness, mood swings, heavy bleeding, anxious depression, migraine headaches, insomnia, foggy thinking, a red flush on the face, gallbladder problems, and weepiness. Group 4 would be a combination of all of those. You're estrogen dominant, you would be everything. So that's a lot of symptoms there. If you have additional androgens, excess androgens, that's the male hormones, too much testosterone, you would potentially have acne, polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, excessive hair on your face and other areas, hypoglycemia or unstable blood sugar, thinning hair on the head, infertility, ovarian cysts, and mid-cycle pain. For cortisol deficiency, that's going to be debilitating fatigue, unstable blood sugar, foggy thinking, low blood pressure, thin and or dry skin, intolerance to exercise, and brown spots on the face, which can also signal that your liver is in dire need of some help. So those are some starting points for you guys. I'm going to make this available, the replay available, so you can go back and listen to it later and replay it. If you have specific questions about yourself and about your individual situation, reach out to the person who invited you to this call. Talk with them through some resources, and let's try to get you a starting point. Again, EndoFlex is always a good place to work forward from. You probably already have an idea of what's going on and where to start. So go with your gut and go with your instinct, and then we can go very gradually and tinker, like Landis said, tinker through that. So the book I was reading from was this I got from Life Science as well, Dr. John Lee's Hormone Balance Made Simple. Again, it's just a good starting point. I have a lot of books here. Like I said, Gary Young, John Lee, Leanne Deerdorf. A lot of good books, a lot of good things. Use your resources before you go out and buy something new. Go look up hormones in the books you already have. Look it up in your essential oil pocket reference. Look it up in your in the different resources that you have from the folks who invited you to come to Young Living and who got you started, right? All right, anything else? Looking through the questions. Nothing else? Okay, this one says, Laura, I want to say, I heard about using Cortistop a month before PD8020. What are your thoughts, just for information education? I say go with what it says on the label. Start with what it says on the label and work from there. So I know Cortistop and Endogize and Femigen are all products that are wanting you to be cyclical with it. Remember, the supplements have herbs in them. They're not straight oil. So it's different than using, when we use Progestins Plus, you don't have to cycle it like you would a progesterone cream. So just be mindful whenever you're using herbs, that they're different than oils. Okay, they're different. They're going to have a different effect. They do have some contraindications. So there's some instruction on to get the maximum amount out of it. So that's just going to be reading, learning some more about it, and then finding out how your body, like Landa said, tinkering with it a little bit. I did do Cortistop. It has black coash in it, and that is something that for some reason, when I have black coash, it gives me migraines. So it's something that I have to be careful. When I get too much of it, I get a blinding headache. So black coash may or may not have that effect on you. So just be aware of that. PD8020 was something that I also have used in the past. If you are, you just be aware that from a balance standpoint, you want to make sure that you're being cautious. You need to be very deliberate. Like the way Landis talked about it, you're working with hormones here. So you need to be regimented. You need to set your alarms and make sure you're doing things, get in a good habit. I was not really regimented when I started with PD8020. I saw some good effects in the beginning, but then I started thinking, a little bit's great, so more would be better. And I had excess hair in places that I didn't want excess hair. So, yeah. So what I would just say is, no, you're going to start seeing the signs of things. And so I backed off. You better believe I backed off. So that there's just things that you need to be aware of, and that you're not just going out willy-nilly and doing this. So make sure you have a good starting point. Start with your EndoFlex, start identifying what symptoms, what things that you're dealing with, and then move to that place of wellness. All right, guys. Well, we're way over time. That's okay though. We had some good conversation, and hopefully this was really informative for everyone. We had a lot of folks on. So if you have questions, feel free to send those to me or the person who invited you to this call. I want to say thanks for joining us, and we will see you next month when we're talking about cleansing.